Okay, over the last 2 weeks, we've been looking at, we first looked at perfect competition, and then we looked at the complete opposite of that, which was monopoly. And now, over the next 2 weeks, we're going to look at some markets that are in between. And these are often called imperfect competition. So there is competition in these markets, but the competition is not as perfect as in the original case. Okay, and so the one we're going to talk about this week is something called monopolistic competition. Okay, so for this might sound to you like a oxymoron. Like these two things are total opposites. How can you be monopolistic and have competition at the same time? But this is a special kind of market, and it's kind of what it sounds like. Okay, so let's look at the characteristics of this market. Um, it does have a degree of competition. So that is true. It does have a degree of competition, but in this kind of market, we're going to think of each firm is sort of has a monopoly on its own product, and its product is a little different than the others. So of our characteristics, there's going to be two are the same and one is different. So we have many buyers and sellers. That's the same as perfect competition. So that's where the competition comes from, right? So the buyers are competing with each other to get sellers. The sellers are also kind of competing with each other to buy. Um, Incidentally, there is a type of market that only has one seller called a monopsony. It's a little more advanced topic that we won't talk about in this class, but just in case you're wondering why I always mention sellers as well. Here's the key difference. It's not identical products anymore. The products are differentiated. Okay, differentiated products. We're not selling the identical product anymore. And so that's the key idea. And so the differentiated products means they are similar, but they're different in some way. Okay, and they can be different in several ways. So one of the big differences could be physical differences, right? They're designed differently. They have a little bit different interface, or maybe they're made out of different materials. Okay, that's an example. It also could be things like quality. One is slightly higher quality, one is lower quality. Color, anything like that, some physical differences. There's also intangible aspects. For example, like the reputation of the company, their return policy, their warranty, all those kind of things, okay? And then location is also an aspect of that. Okay, so it's differentiated. They're similar, but they're not the same. Okay, so they're selling, we can say they're selling similar, but not identical products. So some examples of this. There's actually quite a lot of examples of this, but the two most commonly given ones. So to be this kind of market, so perfect competition is going to be like if I say, well, if I say name a firm in that market, you won't be able to because there's so many of them. There's thousands and thousands of them, and they're all selling the same product. So you're probably going to not, unless you know a corn farmer or somebody personally, you're probably not going to be able to name a single seller in the market because there's just so many of them that they become anonymous. And in the case of Monopoly, there's only one of them, and so they're usually things like your power company or something like that. In this one, there's lots of them, but they have their own brand and their own distinction, so you can name them. So this would be some kind of business where you can name a whole bunch of companies in it. So for example, two common examples, restaurants. Okay, so you can think about it. Each restaurant is selling its own product, and its products are a little different than other products, right? Than other. So food at one restaurant is not exactly the same. It may be different because of the type of food it is. But even if two restaurants sell the same type of food, like they both sell pizza, then it's still not exactly the same, right? They have differences in maybe their toppings or the dough they use or the style of cooking or something like that, right? And the other one that's commonly talked about is clothing stores, right? So we can think of one way to kind of rule of thumb is it monopolistic competition? Can you name sellers? And the second one is if you can name sellers, how many can you name? Okay, if you name two, like Coke and Pepsi, it's not monopolistic competition. But if you can name a whole bunch and maybe even have a hard time naming them all, then it's probably this kind of market. Okay, so that's the distinction that you can see. So products are differentiated, and so since they're differentiated, people are willing to pay a different price for different people's products. Okay, so products are differentiated, right? Just to give you some examples okay, so we got like physical things like design, materials, color, size, quality. Now you can also think of location. We also have intangible things like a reputation, or things that maybe they're not exactly seen when you look at the product. Return policy. Here's a big one. The brand. I'll put it in big letters here. Okay, so even if everything else is basically equal, the brand might either, if the brand has a good reputation or a bad reputation, this may affect the demand for this product. Okay, and so what we're going to come back to in the next video is that because of these differentiated products, we can think of each of these firms are not going to be price takers. They're actually going to be have their own individual perceived demand for their products. So we'll come back in the next video and talk about that.